Good afternoon and welcome to Coping with COVID. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Columbia Housing Authority, Agape Counseling and Training Centers, and we're so proud to have our new sponsor, Palmetto Media Connections. I'm Tre Tailor, and today we are joined by two superintendents of area school districts, and of course, we're going to talk about back to school in the midst of COVID. Dr. Steve Wilson is with Calhoun County School District, and J.R. Green has been with us before on Coping with COVID. He's with the Fairfield County School District. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Coping with COVID.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to come right back with these two gentlemen and talk about what back to school plans looks like for them next on Coping with COVID. But first, Joe Biden says he will reveal the mystery of who his running mate will be next week. But today, Politico posted this, then quickly deleted a picture of Kamala Harris as the VP pick. Politico issued an apology stating they had made a mistake. Biden indicated he would choose a woman, perhaps a woman of color, as his running mate. Several prospects have been mentioned, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, Susan Rice, Representative Karen Bass, Stacey Abrams, and Kamala Harris. This year's South Carolina State Fair will be a drive-through experience. Vehicles will be allowed to drive through for free October 20th and the 21st to see the art exhibits, the agriculture, and even eat the fair food. But no rides, no concerts, and no getting out of your car. The South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs and the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control have partnered on a webinar for small business owners. Now, this will focus on best practices for operating during the pandemic, including how to minimize the spread of the virus and what to do if an employee tests positive. The session is at 6 o'clock this evening. You can register at cma.sc.gov. Finally, the Richland County Democratic Party is hosting a racial bias Zoom this evening. 7 panelists will discuss how to create unity and healing among races. I'm honored to be the moderator, and we invite you to check out what I pray will be a conversation to help heal and unify. I'll stream it on my Tailor-Made Production and Tre Tailor page, and you can also go to the Richland County Democratic Party Facebook page to check it out. I'm Tre Tailor, and SCDHEC and Prisma Health are continuing their ongoing testing. For the most up-to-date list, visit scdhec.gov and prismahealth.org for locations, times, and dates for early testing. You can see the scroll at the bottom with testing locations for today, including Cedar Towers in Florence. That's through the end of the month. Also, Morris Chapel Life Center in Greenwood from 1 until 4 o'clock. Now, tomorrow, you can get free COVID testing from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. at Union AME Church in Orangeburg, St. Paul AME Church in Cameron, Swallow Savannah AME Church in Allendale, Denmark City Hall, and also the Charleston County School of the Arts. Also tomorrow, COVID testing is available from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. at the Ridgeland Medical Center in Ridgeland, Health Resource Center in Camden, Greenwood Medical Park, and Belton Honeypath High School until 3 p.m. And then tomorrow from 11 until 3, Colleton County High School in Walterboro. Now, if you live in Richland County, you can call 911 Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to get information on COVID testing, plus the DHEC Care Line 855-472-3432 from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you'd like to have COVID testing in your community or at your event, the number to call is scrolling, 802.
Man, I lost Trey. I can't hear a word.
I can't either. Are you hearing me, JR?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't hear her.
No, I can't hear her either. It looked like it's froze.
Yeah. Yeah, Anton texted me and said he was trying to get in, but it's frozen, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Man, I got these people here cutting my grass today. That every time they come around, it comes. That's not disturbing you, is it?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. I'm gonna try and call Tree.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we're back. Don't you love technology?
Right.
All right. So I don't know where we ended up, but thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, JR, for joining us
Sure.
on Coping with COVID. I think Antoine did join us, and we want to thank everyone else who is with us today on our Coping with COVID. Antoine Sutton, how are you doing today?
Doing well, and yourself?
Thank you. I was just
How you
frozen just
doing,
a minute
Antoine?
ago.
Yes, you froze on us.
Well, I'm going to try to get reset up here. Thank God for an engineer and another computer. All right, so we are talking today about coping with COVID as far as school is concerned. Once again, Coping with COVID is brought to you in part by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Palmetto Media Connections, Columbia Housing Authority, and we're also glad to be sponsored by Agape Counseling and Training Center. If you are having a challenge coping with COVID, please contact Agape Counseling and Training Centers. So, gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us. These are interesting times that we are living in, and especially for those of you who are dealing with our children. What are you hearing, first of all, from your communities? Dr. Wilson, we'll start with you.
Well, everybody's a little bit concerned. I mean, I can imagine nobody predicted this. I mean, this is something, and for those like myself who lead school systems, our first priority is to keep students and staff safe. And so when this thing moved in, it just came in like a storm, and so it hadn't let up and seemed to be getting worse. So your stress level goes up a little bit, but when I talked to our community, they were pretty much satisfied with at least what we plan to do, and I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Yes.
uh, you know, but concerned. I'd say everybody's concerned and want to make sure that schools and school systems are doing everything that they can do to make sure that the kids and the staff are safe.
Dr. Sutton, in Chester, in the county school district, how many children are you are involved in your schools?
Close to maybe a little over 5,000.
5,000. So it's 5,000 students. How have you fared over the summer? Just getting prepared and hearing from your community.
Well, the main thing is it's been, and I've just transitioned in July 1, but I've worked several days in June trying to meet community members and hear from the community. So what we're hearing here, the anxiety is here. People are concerned about parents. They want to make sure their students will be safe when we enter school and our staff as
Right.
well. So, some of the latest things are on the mask, or we're requiring masks to be worn. So just a handful of emails I received, they want us to rethink that and not enforce masks.
Right.
But our board approved our plan on Monday to require masks to be worn by our students. And
Well,
so,
well, we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But JR, what about you? You've got almost 3,000 students in the Fairfield County School District, and you and I talked right after school shut down, or when you were kind of planning how to move forward. Have what you thought was going to happen then changed now?
Well, so this has been an ever evolving situation, Trey. I'll say pretty much what I predicted where we would be at this point. We are.
Really, really.
My community is probably a mix of anxiety and excitement. They are a little concerned about what the new year holds, yet they are very excited about being a part of what the new year presents for their young people. And so this will be unlike any year we've had, definitely in my career. And for most parents who've been involved in the educational process, this will be unlike any other year. But we're very excited to tackle the challenges.
Yeah, that's great. Deborah Breedlove says that she's here. Also, Arju Brown says hello to you, Dr. Green, and Michelle Kears is also watching. Thank you all so much for watching Coping with COVID. We're talking to superintendents from 3 area school districts. J.R. Green, who you just heard from Fairfield County School District, Dr. Steve Wilson, Calhoun County School District, and Antoine Sutton with Chester County School Districts. So let's talk a little bit about your plans moving forward. I know, Dr. Sutton, you said that your board just approved your plan. What does that look like for you?
our plan consists of 2 options for parents and students, and one part of that is our CCSD Virtual Academy, where students will be able to remain at home and complete their assignments from there with teacher support. We have an online learning management platform that they will be able to use, and with our certified teachers will still deliver instruction and offer support to those students that remain, that choose that option. Second option will be our hybrid model, our AB schedule cohort. We have a cohort A. Those students will attend school and face-to-face on Mondays and Tuesdays, and cohort B on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And Friday, it's kind of a remediation day, a day where teachers can have students come back in for a small group, one-on-one, work with your special education students or our students from our career center to kind of complete those hands-on experiences that they need for those courses.
Now, will both of those go simultaneously?
What part of it?
Well, both of them. Will you do some students will do an A and B, and some students will do virtual, or will it start virtual and then move to the AB days?
Right. Yeah, they'll run the same time. The virtual academy is separate, so they'll just complete their assignments from home. We'll have a check-in with them, but they'll start the first day of school for us is September 8th. So they'll start fully virtual and they will remain virtual throughout the year. And then we'll have the hybrid students. So there's 2 different groups of students here. The ones that will come to the campus 2 days a week and possibly 3, and then the virtual students will remain virtual.
So how will you determine, or will you give parents that choice as to whether or not they want their children in the virtual academy or do the AB day?
Yes, ma'am. They are able to. We have our registrations open through next week, and it's been open now for 2 weeks now. So they've been enrolling for the virtual academy online.
Now, is this K through 12?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. So far, what's the response? What are you seeing? More people want to send their kids virtually or do the AB day?
Right now, we have over 500 that signed up now. I think after the plan was approved on Monday, I think we'll see some of that increase. And some of the issues we have here, I think we're working through is that the internet access in our county. This is a rural county, so that is challenging as well. So that's possibly hindering some parents from selecting the virtual option, being that if they don't have the reliable internet connections here, they may default to the hybrid AB model.
Yeah, I was going to ask about internet access in a minute because you all, the three counties are, kind of rural counties, and we know that that's a problem in our state. Before COVID hit, it was a problem in our state, and I think that issue became intensified after March when schools started shutting down. What about you, Dr. Wilson? What are your plans? What do your plans look like?
Well, our plans sound really similar to the plans in Chester. We're going to start virtually, and the plan is to move to a hybrid plan. When the pandemic levels off, and we can go face to face. Um, The one thing I think with the virtual that this thing came in here like a storm last year, so you didn't really have a lot of time to plan for it.
Right.
And so, one thing that we thought looking back would be good is to bring the teachers into the classroom and let them teach from the classroom because we can solve a lot of internet technology problems when they
Okay.
are there. We also are putting together a child care within the buildings for those teachers who need to bring their children with them. And so, the plan has gone very well. I mean, as I said before, we really hadn't heard anything to the contrary. It seemed like most people were really satisfied with what we're doing. And so, I'm hoping that will continue, but we'll have to wait and see if it's going to have to be tweaked or whatever. And so, I've just this morning spoke with one of the gentlemen from the State Department of Education and just said that if this is something, if it's going to be something different, uh, to put it in writing to us, and so that we have that. But you know, we're pleased. I mean, we're satisfied, and we're on go. We're ready to go. Everybody seems to be excited, and so we're really ready to kick off. As in any year, there'll be things that you'll have to tweak, early because you didn't prepare for this or something else. And so we're just anxious to get started. And, the plans are in place. And so we're waiting to see if that plan is going to remain. And if not, then, we'll tweak and make sure whatever we need to do happens.
So, Dr. Wilson, to kind of summarize what you said, you're going to actually bring your teachers back into the schools, and then they will do a live stream where
Well,
students can
they,
access
yeah,
that
I mean, they'll be doing their virtual teaching from their classroom.
in your classroom. Hmm.
Okay. And so we've got plans to bring the teachers in every day because we've got the AB where on one day it'll be face to face if we get to the hybrid, and the other day will be virtual. So either way, teachers are coming to the classroom every day. Now, one day is for deep cleaning of the building. So they won't come to the building on that day. Now I can't remember. I think that's
So
Wednesday,
they'll do a
maybe.
4-day work week,
That's right.
right?
Well, it's
And
a 5-day work week, but it's 4 days
in
of
class.
in class.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one day is for deep cleaning of the building so that we can minimize anything that's coming with this pandemic.
Well, I love the idea of providing childcare. I mean, that's very innovative, Dr. Wilson, because that is an issue
Oh yeah,
with everybody.
sure,
If people who are trying to decide if they're going back to work, and of
right.
course, there are many faculty, staff, instructors that
Oh yeah,
also have childcare issues. And if the schools are closed, what am I going to
right.
do with my child? So, how is
Exactly.
childcare going to be set up? Are you going to do 0 through what?
Well, I mean, we're going to do childcare based on the teachers that need it or staff that needs it. So
Right.
it's for any of them. The thing is, you have to remember that you've got a lot of teacher aides and other people in the building that when you're doing virtual, their services may not be as comprehensive
Right.
as they were if they were with the teacher. And so we feel like we could use some aides to help with the child care. And I guess the satisfaction to the teacher or parent, because then they become both teacher and parent, is that the child is in close proximity to them.
Yes, to that.
So if
To their
anything goes on that they need to be aware of or help with, then we can get them, the parent to the child, teacher to the child in short order.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And is this K through 12 for your students also, Dr. Wilson?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, JR, what
It,
about at Fairfield County School District? I love Dr. Wilson's idea to have the teachers actually come in the classroom. How different is your plan from his and Dr. Sutton's?
Yeah, so we're going to implement what we call a modified virtual learning model, and by modified virtual, the predominant percentage of our students will receive their education virtually in real time through through a streaming platform where they can interact with their teachers. As Dr. Wilson said, our teachers will be reporting to their respective buildings in order to deliver the content. But in addition to the virtual platform, we are going to invite specific cohorts of students that we feel have kind of unique challenges. And those groups include exceptional education students. That group includes students who do not have consistent access to the internet, even when we provide them with a modified device. Career and technology education students, welding, barbering, building construction, in addition to gifted and talented in English as a second language. And so we will have some students in the building initially based on some of those identified groups.
That's good that you're taking into consideration the special students, because I know that is a concern also for parents. What happens to those students that need a little bit more, a little bit different types of education? We're talking to J.R. Green, superintendent of Fairfield County Schools, along with Steve Wilson, over Calhoun County, and Antoine Sutton with Chester County School District. Dr. Sutton, Audrey Brown says congratulations on your appointment as being superintendent of Chester. She also has a question about the virtual academy. She wants to know who's going to teach that. She says some teachers as the cohorts. She said her grandchildren will be doing something similar in York County. She says it's a little confusing. Anyone want to who's teaching the virtual academy, Dr. Sutton?
Yeah, the virtual academy teachers, those will be the teachers and Chester County teachers. What we will do is that we allow teachers to, they, in a sense, apply it in a sense, because some that may have medical issues or reasons where they feel it may be difficult to return to the building on a regular basis. They apply for it. So what we're doing now is waiting until our registration closes, and then we will look at the number of students we have based on the grade levels that we have for elementary, middle, and high, and the certification levels. Then we'll start working to assign teachers from that pool. Mm-hmm. And so it'll be teachers from the district teaching the virtual courses.
Yeah,
so, it's different from the cohort. It won't be the same teachers.
Right. I wanted to ask JR. Now, JR, I know that I think I remember when we talked the last time, there were some challenges with teachers because, it's one thing to teach. It's another thing than to have to teach virtually. And you lose that, one-on-one connection with the students. Have any of your teachers in any of the school districts received special training or additional training over the summer months?
Yeah, so Trey, we have been a one-to-one district for several years, and so our teachers in Fairfield County were pretty adept at working, particularly with instructional technology. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are accustomed to working with students in a virtual environment, but you are accustomed to working with students on a Google platform and things of that nature. I'll tell you that we have made plans to provide additional professional development as it relates to teaching in a virtual environment that will occur at the beginning of this school year. And so even though some of them were relatively proficient in that sphere, we are going to really ramp up our attempts at really providing professional development relating to teaching in a virtual environment.
What about you, Dr. Wilson?
Well, we have got a expert. I say expert because it is new to most
Yeah.
teachers to try and teach in a virtual situation. But our professional development starts next week, and so we've got 2 days of teaching virtually planned for professional development. And I understand the person is really good. Um, Nobody thinks that they'll learn everything that they need in 2 days, but certainly it can help. And teachers are pretty astute, and so they'll catch on real quick, I think, and they'll utilize some of their practices that they normally use teaching virtually, and so we're excited about it. I mean, I think it is what it is, and so we've just got to plan for it and do the best we can with it.
Yeah, that's Dr. Steve Wilson. He is the superintendent of Calhoun County School District. We're talking to superintendents in school districts in and around Columbia, South Carolina, about their plans for the new school year. Now, all of you, talked about a virtual learning option. I asked this to Dr. Sutton, but I wanted to ask you, Dr. Wilson, and you, Jr. Are parents deciding what their children, because I know there's a debate about, I want my kids back in school. And then the other side of the debate is, I don't want my kids back in school.
Right. Well,
you know,
we listen certainly to our parents and others about what they think about reopening schools. And, we did the surveys and all of that to, so they could tell us what their thought processes are. And, I'd say most decided that they would like the virtual option, but, of course, we had a lot of parents that didn't say one way or the other.
mm,
But I think in this pandemic, as far as I'm concerned, is that the call has to come from the superintendent and his staff because we usually make decisions based on data,
right.
and the data right now says that you ought to be in a virtual mode,
Mm.
and so that's the real reason. Even though we listen to parents and others, uh, you know the the quality of instruction and the safety of instruction rests with the school system. And so we have to make the right calls or best calls in order to make sure that these kids are safe in receiving quality instruction, which is the other reason that we wanted to bring teachers in to do instruction from the classroom. And
Well,
so it's a lot that goes with that, but for the most part, you make the best call that you can make based on the situation.
yeah, Archie Brown says that she says, as an educator at Fairfield Central High School, she said she was really grateful that the students are to the one-on-one with students and were already using Google Classroom and Google Meets. She said she was able to meet with her students numerous times a week and even have one-to-one meetings with her special needs students. She said they did very well because it was normal for them to use it during face-to-face before we had to deal with COVID. Dr. Green also, Tanya Green says, Dr. Green, can you share information about the transportation plan? Thank you, Tanya, for that question. I am going to get to that in a minute, but I do want to mention, I do want to ask you about the internet, because everybody has a virtual piece to it, but we know that internet is a big issue in South Carolina. There's an issue in Columbia, downtown Columbia. There's some places you can't get internet. So I'm sure that's a challenge in rural South Carolina. Dr. Sutton, how are you all going to handle those students who have little or no internet at all?
So we've been in close contact with the meetings with our the provider for Chester County is a True Vista services the county and work with them on the coverage areas that they currently have and what they're doing to expand the coverage as well. So we actually had meetings just last week with them, and we continue to work with them on that. And they actually want information from us to help identify parts of the county where some of our students are, so they could see if that area needs to have lines run on a certain street or certain areas to try to improve the connection for them. And in addition to that, we also have the district already, because Chester County is also 1-to-1 as well from 3rd through 12th grade. We push down to 2nd. We have devices for that. So we're 1-to-1 here as well. And so we have mobile hotspots that the district already allows students to use. So we've also purchased 300 more. So we'll have a total of over 500 mobile hotspots that we will check out to our students to use when the school year starts.
Okay, so you got 500 mobile hotspots, but did I hear you say, I think you said you had 5,000 students in the district?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you, who gets the hotspot?
It's based on the need. They'll be communicating with the schools to let them know who needs it. Not every student needs one because they have internet. They already have internet access.
Okay.
Because access is through the county. In the county they have access, but so not every student needs a hotspot.
Right.
So we feel strongly, my staff here, that we have enough for what we're told or requested from our parents and students. So if not, we're prepared to purchase more. And we're also opening up our Wi-Fi at our school sites as well. So if students need to have access, they can come to a school, into the parking lots of school campuses and utilize it as well.
All right. JR, what about you over in Fairfield County? How are you going to deal with the internet connection or lack thereof?
Yeah. And so, Trey, during our registration process, we asked parents to identify whether they had access to the internet outside of a cell phone. And then that led us to purchase, or we're in the process of securing about 500 mobile hotspots. Now, the thing that we have to recognize about a hotspot or a MiFi device is that it runs on a cellular network.
Right.
And if you live in an area that does not have consistent cell service, then a MiFi device won't do you a lot of good.
It's almost like that TV that you put on top of a TV back in the day. You just
exactly. And so basically, three things will happen to try and address the internet access issue. First of all, we've reached out to True Vista and identified addresses that have shared with us that they do not have internet access, and are trying to partner with True Vista to see whether they will provide internet access to those particular addresses at a discounted rate. The second thing is we will deploy MiFi devices to those areas that do not have internet access, and True Vista does not provide services to those areas. And then thirdly, for students that live in areas that True Vista does not serve, a MiFi does not provide internet access, we're going to provide an opportunity for those students to report for in-person instruction. And so we feel as if, we have a plan to accommodate every category of students, from the ones who do have internet access to the ones who do not have internet access and can't get it through True Vista or a MiFi device.
Right. Well, we're going to take a break, but before we go to break, JR, so those students who do have to then come in because they don't have any access to the internet, who's teaching those students? I guess you could bring in some staff members, because that could be anybody from K through 12.
Yeah, and so, that's why our strategy to bring teachers in to provide the instruction from their classroom gives us the opportunity that although you are providing it remotely in a synchronous environment, if students who do not have access to the internet or exceptional needs students need to report to receive their instruction in person, the teacher is already on site.
Gotcha.
So it's not a function of asking anyone to come in. Teachers are already there delivering the instruction. And so conceivably, they could be delivering the instruction to the predominant number of students virtually, and there could be a handful of students who are in the class receiving the instruction in real time in person.
Right. So this is, again, like Dr. Wilson said, for his district, that is K through 12.
Exactly.
All right. We are talking to 3 school superintendents, J.R. Green with Fairfield County School District, Dr. Antoine Sutton, newly appointed Chester County School District Superintendent, and Steve Wilson with Calhoun County. And we're going to come right back and talk to all of them more about the internet, because Dr. Wilson, I want you to get in here with the internet concerns. We want to talk about masks. We want to talk about when all of this starts, when is back to school. And of course, we're going to take your question Ms. Green about transportation. Want to say hi to Kelly Cohen and also Yolanda Singleton and everyone else that's watching Coping with COVID. Ladies, I see your questions, and we are going to answer your questions and pose them to these gentlemen right after this. Coping with COVID is brought to you in part by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Agape Counseling and Training Center. If you're having some challenges coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Center. Also, Columbia Housing Authority and the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities. We'll be right back in just a minute. As you know, I'm dealing with somebody else's device here. So I'm going to have you to come in and do this device because I cannot get to the commercials. Lauren, I can't get to the commercials. Lauren, I can't get to the commercials. Can you come and get to the commercials for me, please? We'll be right back, y'all. Technical difficulties.
Coping with COVID is sponsored in part by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdhec.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and your friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC, healthy people, healthy communities. Coping with COVID is sponsored by the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia, South Carolina. Inbox Tailor-Made Productions on Facebook to find out how you can join the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities and SCDHEC as a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Also, Coping with COVID is brought to you by the Columbia Housing Authority. The agency is looking for stories from former residents of Allen Benedict Court to retain some of the property's rich history. In its 80-year life, Allen Benedict Court has been home to some of the country's elite, including a Grammy Award-winning performer, corporate executives, national television celebrities, a host of doctors, lawyers, and NBA greats. So share your pictures, mementos, and memories at chcares@chasc.org. I'm Tre Tailor, and thank you again so much for joining us on Coping with COVID. Today, we are talking to superintendents from various school districts in and around Columbia. J.R. Green is with Fairfield County School District. Steve Wilson at Calhoun County School District. Antoine Sutton is the newly appointed superintendent of the Chester County School District. And when we left off, we were going to hear from Dr. Steve Wilson to talk about internet. How are you guys going to handle that? Dr. Wilson in Calhoun County for students who don't have internet. 500 seems to be the magic number. Are you ordering 500 Wi-Fis too?
Well, actually, we've ordered about 800 Wi-Fi
All right.
hotspots. And we certainly are experiencing the same concerns that the other two districts are, being a lot of our county is rural. And so a lot of kids just don't have access to the internet. And, I think we also have to remember that this is an application process through parents to tell whoever's providing various kinds of information to decide if you're eligible for the hotspot. And one thing is that if you have internet, you're not eligible. Now that's a concern because Windstream provides that access in our county. And a lot of times, it's not up, or even when it's up, it's not adequate. And so what do you do? And so, we're trying to purchase other hotspots and the like as well. But the thing is, we're not going to leave kids out there who don't have access to the internet. And if it means that we've got to bring these kids in for instruction, then that's the way it'll be. Again, we have the teachers there in the classroom, but now we hadn't fully decided whether we're going to bring those kids in, isolate them somewhere like the gym, set it up, social distancing and the like, or are we just going to put them in the classroom with their teacher? So we're still toying with that. Whether even if we bring them in, we just going to continue to teach virtually, unless we are in a face-to-face mode.
Let's talk a little bit about transportation. Tanya Tisdale Green mentioned transportation, and I'll ask you, JR, first because she directed her question at you. Let's talk a little bit about your transportation plan. Then we'll find out from Dr. Sutton and Dr. Wilson, and then we'll go to the questions.
Yeah, and so we will be running our traditional bus routes during the year, even though we will be operating under a modified virtual format, because we recognize that we'll have multiple groups of students who may need to report for in-person instruction. Another thing that we're working on, and I had a brief meeting with my transportation director and food service director as well. During the spring of last year, we delivered meals during the shutdown to all of our families throughout the community who still needed to receive school lunches and breakfasts. And so we are putting together a plan right now that will allow us to continue the process of delivering meals to students who elect to remain on our virtual platform. And so recognizing that some families have some financial struggles that have been exacerbated
Yeah.
by this COVID crisis, we want to continue, if at all possible, providing a good, healthy, nutritious breakfast and lunch. And we will do that through our transportation department also.
Okay, good thing. What about you, Dr. Sutton? What's happening as far as transportation? Because you are doing in-school learning in addition to virtual.
Yes, as Dr. Green stated, we'll run our traditional bus routes. With the ridership we currently have, we're going to probably be near that 50% threshold of guidelines we were given. And the State Department informed us yesterday that they will be providing masks, and we've already purchased. We have a stockpile of masks as well for students to wear a mask on the buses, so that could possibly increase the number of students that could ride on the bus. But they'll be spread out on the bus, be socially distanced as best we can on the bus. So routes will run as they normally would, and we'll get them into school and we'll get them back home.
Now, you mentioned, Dr. Sutton, that the State Department is going to provide masks for bus riders. Is that one mask? Is that one disposable mask? Is that a washable mask?
I'm going to defer to the other superintendents. There's a cloth mask or disposable. From the call, we had a call just yesterday.
Yeah. So what has happened is Superintendent Spearman has mandated, first of all, that masks be worn by all students who ride state transportation. The State Department will provide some cloth masks. Districts will have to supplement disposable masks, and quite honestly, we'll probably have to supplement some cloth masks as well. If a student reports to the bus and does not have a cloth mask, you need to be prepared to at least provide them with a disposable mask for that day. And so I think the State Department may provide all students 2 masks, if my memory serves me correctly. We'll probably provide them with another 2 or 3 as well, but also have a inventory of cloth masks, disposable masks on all of our buses and throughout the building also.
All right. So will you also require that masks be worn in class, JR and Antoine?
Yeah, right now, we're saying in common areas, spaces of a building. Right now, if they're at their desk, as long as they're sitting at their desk, they can remove them. But anytime a student moves from their desk, they will need to have them on.
Oh, okay. What about
right now?
What about in Fairfield County, JR?
Yeah, so as we said earlier, students will be required to wear their masks in transport to and from school. They will be required to wear their masks during transition to and from class. Once they're in class, we may relax to a certain extent when they can recognize social distancing protocols. But we are going in with the expectations that students will have to wear their masks at all times when they're in our facility. Now, we recognize that we want to create some breaks during the day. So you very well may create some mass breaks, for lack of a better word. But we want that expectation to be that once students decide that they are going to report for in-person instruction, they'll be required to wear masks.
I want to thank Shannon Morrison Ryan and Patty Reed and also Diane Prince Williams for joining us on Coping with COVID. Ladies, I'm going to get you a question right after I ask Dr. Wilson about masks and transportation in Calhoun County.
Well, we're going to run our traditional transportation routes as well. we're toying now with whether we're going to run those routes in the AM or the afternoon uh, when we are virtually working, teaching. And the reason is there's been some thought in terms of if we're delivering meals on the bus in the AM, then either kid or somebody's got to accept those meals, and then there's some paperwork that goes with that. And we're concerned that that may interfere with instruction when it starts. Uh, we're still studying that a little bit. But if we do that in the afternoon, you take that away, that interruption, that possible interruption away. And so we're still studying that. Now with masks, you know, we've heard that kids have to wear the mask all the way to the classroom door. Is basically what I heard, and I just don't understand that COVID-19 is going to take a break once they get in the classroom.
I agree, Dr. Wilson.
Yeah. So we still trying. I mean, you know, back a while ago it was that you weren't going to require kids to wear the mask. Now we go wear them from the bus to the schoolhouse door, classroom door, really, and then hope that COVID doesn't say, "I got you." Uh, I don't understand all that, but we'll certainly make a decision on what to do in the classroom. You know, my concern is that with these really small children, uh, and maybe they would, but I'm concerned that they're going to be picking at these masks and not taking them off. And, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, it's going to be a different bag for different kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Dr. Stephen Wilson, Calhoun County School District. I'm Tre Tailor. We're talking to superintendents from neighboring counties about back to school amidst COVID. Shannon Morrison Ryan wants to know from you, Dr. Green, will hotspots be upgraded to unlimited data to accommodate the new streaming teaching scenario?
Yeah, Ms. Ryan, you know, the little secret is even when people say you have an unlimited data plan, it's really not unlimited. And
Right.
what happens is the providers tend to start ramping down your access after so much time. And so, yes, yeah, we'll go in with theoretically an unlimited plan, but I can assure you once you get to a certain level of usage, then you'll see it begin to slow down tremendously. And once you get out of that month, then it'll pick back up. So students and teachers, whomever receive a hotspot, will need to be cognizant of that. Because after so many times, the data will begin to slow tremendously.
Now, will you let the students and teachers know that you know, you have a limit on how much data you have?
Yeah, we absolutely will share that information. And for people who have had hotspots previously, and we've been deploying hotspots for several years now, so we've seen it real time. And although we purchased what quote unquote have limited data plans, students and staff have shared with us. I noticed at a certain point in the month, my service starts to slow to a crawl. And what happens is the providers start to really ramp down your access once you get to a certain point.
Kelly Cohen wants to know what's going to happen with the little ones that are in pre-K and kindergarten classes. Well, you mentioned that this starts at K. What happens to pre-K? Are they included?
Yeah, and so for us, we are including, you know, we have a full day 3K program in Fairfield County, a full day 4K program, and obviously a full day 5K program. And we will provide Chromebooks to all students from 3K through grade 12. Our expectation will be that even our 3K students wear masks also. And people have asked the question, Tracy, well, will a 3-year-old kid wear a mask? You know, I had a teacher in my office on yesterday, and she brought her 3-year-old daughter with her. And I was just amazed. That little girl kept the mask on the entire time. And she was running around the office and playing and just having a good time. And obviously that mother had already gotten accustomed to that. But we're going to go into the year with the expectation that our young people can rise to the occasion. We will give them mask breaks during the day. so it does not become overwhelming. But the expectation is that all of our students who report will be able to meet that requirement.
So you said you're going to give them a mask break?
Mask break, yes.
Where do you go during your mask break?
Yeah, so ideally what I'd like to see happen is that teachers, particularly with those young kids, would take them outside,
Okay.
give them a break, let them, kind of run around where they can be socially distanced and get a little fresh air. I think we'll probably do a little bit more outside than we have previously. We've talked about chorus, really doing more outside. We've talked about band. We've talked about drama. So I think we'll do a little bit more outside than we have in previous years, particularly when we can really socially distant and really have the outside air to mitigate any potential spread of the virus.
Right. Yeah. Kelly Cohen wants to know, will kids be marked absent if they're not able to log on during school times due to parents working day shifts? Antoine or Dr. Wilson, either one of you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, we have to take attendance, and if kid doesn't log on, then we have to assume that the kid's not available for instruction. So we'll have to mark the kid absent probably, but there are different circumstances, and if we find later that there's a legitimate reason in terms of why the kid was not able to log on, then we'll certainly go to step 2 with that.
Yeah, Dr. Sutton.
The same as Dr. Wilson stated. We have to take attendance even in the virtual students. So they'll be required. There's an expectation that they log on daily, and if they don't, we have to go with the assumption that they're absent in a sense. But the teachers will follow up in a sense to kind of see if there are difficulties or if there was technical issues, that kind of thing.
Right. Audrey Brown says if your MiFi doesn't work, they can call Google and they can get emails if they had internet issues. Yolanda Singleton wants to know from you, Dr. Green, will teachers have to do double work for students who are going to be virtual?
That's a very good question. So the reason we ask teachers to report, the reason we ask students to log on during their identified class times are so teachers don't have to do double work. And so when you deliver your instruction, let's say you have an Algebra 1 class that goes from 9 to 10 o'clock, you deliver that instruction from 9 to 10 o'clock for those students who are present real time and for those students who are receiving the instruction virtually. And so there is not a separate set of instruction for students who are receiving the instruction virtually. All of it happens real time. Those students who are participating virtually can ask questions at the same time as students who are present in the classroom. The content that's being delivered also occurs at the same time. So no, there is not double work that occurs for teachers who are teaching students in person and students who are teaching virtually, because all of that is occurring in a synchronous environment in real time.
Okay, thank you, JR. Go ahead,
Can
Dr.
I add that
yes,
the other thing I think is a plus for bringing the teachers in is that now we've created a situation where the administration of the school can observe teachers to see if they are in fact teaching of quality, and how long are their lessons? Are is the lesson not spaced out enough, or are you trying to give too much information in that period of time? So, just like administrators would do if kids were in the classroom and they go to observe, they go want to know and see what's the quality of that instruction.
Yeah. That's Dr. Steve Wilson with Calhoun County School District, J.R. Green with Fairfield County School District, and Antoine Sutton with Chester County School District. We've been talking to these gentlemen about back to school amidst COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. You're watching Coping with COVID. Thank you so much for joining us. It's brought to you in part by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, also Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Columbia Housing Authority. Also, Coping with COVID is brought to you by Palmetto Media Connections. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to a couple of more questions. So, a young lady wants to know what the student-teacher ratio will be for the virtual academy.
And ours is kind of probably maybe close to 30-1, because you can have more since it is virtual, and the teacher will still be able to provide one-on-one instruction with those students during that time period or throughout the week, since they are on the virtual. And that teacher will be a full-time virtual teacher. They won't be teaching students in the classroom. So it could be, ours could be based on numbers. It could be maybe 30-1, when they're 1 to 30.
We schedule just as we normally would, the teachers with students, and we normally schedule on no more than a 25-to-1 ratio. And so we don't expect that it's going to go much over that. Some classes may, but traditionally the standard is 25-to-1 for us. And we suspect that virtually it'll be the same thing or close to.
JR, what's the student teacher ratio for a virtual academy over in Fairfield?
Yeah, and so we don't have a virtual academy similar to what Dr. Sutton mentioned earlier. What we have is our instructors will be providing instruction to students who may report for in-person instruction and students who are receiving it remotely. And so if you had a class size of 18 students, you conceivably could be delivering instruction to 16 students virtually and 2 students in person. If they were an exception needs students or students who had some kind of exception that was approved. And so our class size, generally speaking, runs about 16, 17, 18-to-1. We have very favorable class sizes in Fairfield County. And so that won't change as a function of teaching virtually.
Diane Prince Williams wants to know if any churches have stepped up to serve as hotspot centers in any of your communities. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
We have 2 churches who've stepped up, and we're looking for others as well. And so, you know how it is with churches. If one do it, the other ones decide they need to do something too. So we're counting on that.
Yeah, we've already had a couple of churches who have indicated that they're willing to be hotspot, locations and provide internet access to students. I just reminded them that even if students report to churches, we have to still adhere to social distancing protocol. We got to ensure that we aren't necessarily putting kids in an unsafe situation. And so they would need to recognize some of the same things that we've been asked to recognize in our respective school buildings.
Same here, 1 or 2 or so far. But as Dr. Wilson said, I'm pretty sure when we publish a list of those 1 or 2 churches, then others will join in as well.
Yeah, I've got 2 more questions about masks and a start date, but we do have a question from someone in Fairfield County. Darius Harvey says that he's a student at Fairfield High School. He wants to say thank you, Dr. Green, for all you've done for this during this hard time, and thank the schools that gave parents information on how this school year will be. He said thanks again. And let's go. What Griffins? Let's go Griffins. April Sproul says to the Chester superintendent, which she says the Chester superintendent, but Chester's not there. Well, yeah, Antoine. She wants to know, have you thought about going live like you're doing now on the school district Facebook page to answer any questions?
Yes, I have. And just I asked the community to bear with me a little bit. When I started, my folks has been working on the reopening plan, so that's why I've had to push back a little of my, being a new superintendent and welcome myself to the community. So So now that we have a plan that's been voted on and pretty in place, that will come next. That's in the works.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about the plan briefly as we wrap up. So all of you have submitted your plans to your school boards, and they've been approved, correct?
Yes.
That was the first step, and then to the state superintendent.
Yes, correct.
And of course, earlier this week, she did release that less than 10 have been approved so far. And Fairfield, Calhoun, nor Chester were one of the 10 that she's approved. What are you hearing back from the state superintendent as far as when your plans will be approved?
Well, we had a meeting with Superintendent Spearman yesterday, I think it was. And she indicated that their hope is that all plans are approved by the end of this week.
Okay.
Obviously, that means that we got a lot of plans to approve between now and Friday.
Right.
But I trust that they are working on it and anticipating lots of announcements relative to what plans have been approved as early as today.
Right. And the same for the 2 of you, Dr. Wilson and Dr. Sutton. You were in that meeting. That JR
we were in the meeting. Yes,
that's correct.
Yeah, and just be clear, our plan hasn't been submitted yet. We just had a board meeting on Monday where we had board approval. So I have not submitted the Chester County plan as we put the finishing touches on some parts of the plan, because this is in excess of 40, 50 pages. So we're trying to make sure we have everything, all the requirements met before we submit. But we have time to do that, to get it in. So it'll be in, I will be submitting Chester County's plan with the early next week.
When is back to school? What date does school start? Dr. Wilson?
August 17th for us.
Dr. Green?
And so our leap days will start, and those are the 5 additional instructional days. That'll start on the 17th. Our first day for all students will be August 24th.
And Dr. Sutton?
Our leap days will run August 24th, 2 days, and then 3 days the following week. And then the official first day of school is September 8th.
And what is the plan to transition into 100% attendance? Or is there a plan for that? Are you giving students and parents an option that they can not come back to school in person?
And so, Trey, what I'll say is there's not necessarily a plan to transition to 100% in-person instruction. There is a plan to offer all parents the option of in-person instruction. And so as soon as the virus allows us to do so, then we look forward to being able to offer all parents the option of in-person instruction. But we recognize that there will conceivably be a percentage of parents who, even if we offer that, say that we aren't necessarily comfortable returning to in-person instruction and would elect to remain virtually for the remainder of the school year. And that's the one thing I keep reminding parents is that at no point this year are we mandating that your young people report to school for in-person instruction. Everyone has the option to remain in a virtual environment if you so desire.
Right, that's good stuff. Dr. Wilson and Dr. Sutton, is that the same for your districts?
Yeah.
Well, it is. And, I think the public should understand that we all wish that we could start day one face to face. I mean, we want them back, but we also want them to be safe. And so some of the decisions that we as superintendents have to make are tough ones. And the one thing that we know is no matter what decision we make, somebody ain't gonna be happy.
Right.
You can be sure of that, Dr. Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
You can be sure of that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. I really appreciate your, just coming on, taking the time out of your busy day, which I know that it's really crazy right now. And not only talking to us about your plans, but answering the questions. In closing, and we're past our 1 minute time, so I thank you for hanging in there because I really wanted to get these folks' questions answered. Any closing words, Dr. Antoine Sutton?
Yes, I would just ask the parents and community to be patient as we work through this. It's something we've had, it's uncharted territory for all of us. It's something we're working through day by day. So I just ask them to be patient and work with us. We're going to do the best we can to keep all students safe and our staff. And we're going to do the best we can to get through the situation, to get on the other side of it.
Dr. Green?
That.
Yeah, what I'll say
is
I am just as excited about this 2021 school year as I have ever been. It is obviously filled with lots of anxiety, but yet lots of excitement about the outstanding things we can do for the young people in our community. So I experienced it. Let's get ready for an outstanding school year.
All righty. And Dr. Wilson, you just echo what they said?
Well, I echo exactly what they've said. We're excited as well, ready to get started. And we just want the parents and others to know that we know that they love their children. And we certainly not going to try to put them in harm's way.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Steve Wilson, Calhoun County School District, Antoine Sutton, the newly elected superintendent of Chester County School District, and J.R. Green, superintendent of Fairfield County School District. Gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining us and again for sharing this information, this important information, as Dr. Wilson said, on our most precious, our young people. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Have a
having
good
me.
Thank
day.
you.
Hey,
All right, you guys do the same. You've heard from them. Now, please go over to my company Facebook page, Tailor Made Productions. Please like that page so that you can not only watch Coping with COVID Monday through Saturday at 2 o'clock, you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. Coping with COVID is brought to you in part by SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Centers, and also Columbia Housing Authority. We're so thankful for Palmetto Media Connections also to be a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID. Now, tomorrow, Pastor Mark Oles from Boston has a fascinating study on the great shutdown of 2020. It's about the pandemic and all of the statistics. You won't want to miss that. And then Fun Day Friday with J. Anthony Brown, of course, is this Friday. And Jay is going to bring with him comedian George Wallace. It comes up this week on Coping with COVID. As always, I'm going to leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. It's July 29th, and Jesus says, "Come to me continually. I am meant to be the center of your consciousness, the anchor of your soul. Your mind will wander from me, but the question is, how far will you allow it to wander? An anchor on a short rope lets a boat drift only slightly before the line hugs the boat